Hey everybody, you've reached the Real Estate Fix with your host, Rich Sherman. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's Friday, and we're on KHTS, AM 1220, FM 98.1, your hometown station. Thank you guys for tuning in this morning. I appreciate it. Today's going to be a fun show. It's going to be all about real estate scams and bad actors and other malfeasance and stuff. And I simply do not have the time in a 1-hour show to go over all the stuff that I see on a regular basis. I have special guest Marcela Slavik, a good friend of the show as well. We've been working together for, over a decade now. And she brought some interesting things that she wanted to talk about. So we're going to talk about that as well under the heading of real estate scams. So let's get right into it. First of all, let's tell you that the real estate market is not in a great place. The foreclosures have hit a 7-year high because a lot of the pandemic relief that was for 2 years after the pandemic is now sunsetting. A lot of the banks aren't handling it properly, which we're going to talk about. Mortgage applications have fallen to the lowest rate in nearly 2 months. And that's because of the interest rate. And I keep saying this, the real estate market is not going to get healthy until the interest rate gets down under 6%. It really needs to get down to about 5.5%. Something I've been, saying a little prayer for, and I hope you guys can join me on that for the last roughly 4 years. And we were headed there. January, February of this year, we got under 6%. Things were starting to get in the right place. The real estate market was starting to unfreeze, and then some fool thought he could start a war in the Middle East without an exit strategy and not have it affect energy prices. And it turns out he was very, very wrong. And as long as that conflict goes on with Iran, which I can't see what we're getting anything out of, but I guess people smarter than me will figure that out. But what I can tell you, as long as that conflict goes on, interest rates are going to remain elevated because all of our other cost inflation remains elevated. And the Fed is not going to be able to drop the rates, and the banks are not going to drop their rates if inflation is still as high as it is. Never got the 2% Fed's goal, but we were getting pretty close here in the first quarter of the year, and things were headed in the right direction. Now, not so much, because it turns out when you drop bombs in the Middle East, what winds up happening is energy prices go through the roof, and that takes up everything else. It's not just gas prices, it's also food prices and production prices and everything else you can possibly imagine. So you add that to the tariffs and everything else, you wind up with a situation where the inflation in the economy is just getting out of control. And that means the Fed has gone from talking about how many times can they cut in 2026 to how much they're going to have to raise in 2026. And that's not good for the market. So that's where the market's at. But I want to talk about scams and cons and other sort of real estate malfeasance, and I got a great one here. And this is, I'm just going to read you the headline. And this is from the Attorney General's website. They think they're impressed with this. I don't know why, but they're impressed with it. Attorney General Bonta secures $4.6 million settlement. Consumer relief with mortgage servicer select portfolio servicing for violations of foreclosure protections during COVID-19 pandemic. Now, those of you who listen regularly, you know that my particular thing is I help people avoid foreclosures. I've been doing it for free for, 30 years. And what happens is if you're in foreclosure, if you're having a problem, you should give me a call. 661-714-1400. I'll give that out all the time. It's my personal cell phone number, 661-714-1400. If you're having a problem, give me a call. I'll be happy to help you out. Because the deal is, and I know this is going to shock you as listeners, but most mortgage companies, most mortgage servicers are not honest people. They're just not. They're not honest in their businesses. I don't know what they're like in their personal lives, but they're not honest in business. And this is just yet another example of that. So the headline here is that SPS, Select Portfolio Servicing, SPS in industry terms, is now paying out $4.6 million in a settlement. That sounds pretty good. I don't know, $4.6 million for malfeasance. That sounds pretty good until you realize what SPS is. Let me give you a rundown as to what SPS is. First of all, they're a mortgage servicer. They don't own most of the loans they deal with. They service them for other investors. There's nothing wrong with that. But SPS has over $200 billion, you heard me right, billion with a B, in mortgages. That's just under 1 million mortgages. This is a $200 billion company with just under 1 million mortgages. But it's okay because you hit them with a $4.6 million settlement? Are you kidding? Was this meant to be a joke? I don't understand why you'd put this out as a press release. $4.6 million to SPS is the equivalent of a nickel to you and me. That's nonsense. $4.6 million sounds like a lot of money, but it's not if you're a $200 billion company with almost $1 million in loans. This is I would say it's a slap on the wrist, but it's not even that. It's sort of waving at the wrist so they feel the breeze from your hand. It's not even a slap on the wrist. This is a joke. And if you're not insulted by this, you're not paying attention. And I like the Attorney General. I think he's a bright guy. I don't think he's a fool. But this is the best you could do? This is to resolve allegations that the company violated state and federal mortgage servicing and debt collection laws during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, having somebody who has a lot of files with SPS and people I represent who have mortgages with SPS, and they're not the worst one out there. Their top 5 is one of the worst, but they're not the worst. There's some other companies that are worse. Face Servicing comes to mind. PHH comes to mind. PHH, a company so awful I had to rename it, come to mind. but they're not great. They're pretty bad at this. So the fact that this is supposed to be for violations during COVID-19, in other words, let me just give you the short course here. What SPS did is they took the COVID guidelines that they're supposed to be following and they perverted them in such a way that they could make themselves money. Because you never want to miss an opportunity to screw the consumer and make yourself money if you're a servicer, especially one like SPS. So let's see. This includes enforcement of the California Homeowner Bill of Rights, because HBOR is something we have in California that's specific to our state. Lots of states have similar things, and there are federal laws as well. But the Homeowner Bill of Rights is something I was very involved with when it was first created, 2008, 9, and 10. It became law in 2010. And SPS is essentially ignoring it. So SPS must pay $1.6 million in civil penalties and $3 million in consumer relief. Well, it's $3 million in consumer relief sounds pretty good. That's, $3 million they have to get supposed to go directly to consumers. The problem is, let's do a little math. Let's say SPS only defrauded 30,000 people. I suspect it's a lot more than that in the 1 million they're servicing. But let's say with this particular problem with the COVID-19 pandemic, the people they're taking advantage of, let's say it was only 30,000 people that they took advantage of. Well, if it's 30,000 people, and the settlement is $3 million, let's do some quick math. What does that work out to? Let's see, $30,000 divided by $3 million. Oh, $100 a person. So we're terribly sorry that SPS has treated you poorly and stolen your house. We're terribly sorry that house you had that had equity that you couldn't work during the pandemic and they were supposed to give you a break and didn't and wound up foreclosing on it, that they took that away from you and no doubt sold at a profit. But it's okay, here's $100, which is kind of like the $4.6 million settlement to begin with. It's nonsense. I mean, the fact that you're giving $3 million to people who are wronged by this sounds impressive until you realize it's probably about $100. Let's say I'm wrong. Let's say it's half that amount. Let's say it's 15,000 people they defrauded. Well, that's $200. So again, sorry you lost your house. Here's $200. I mean, this is insulting. And again, Rob Bonta is not a fool. He knows what the math is here. But I don't know that I'd be dumb enough to put out a press release that's proud of this. This is a loss, not a win. This is the Attorney General of the state of California rolling over for the big banks. That's what this is. And it happens again and again and again. But wait a minute, let me give you the silver lining. I don't want to miss this. In addition to the $1.6 million in civil penalties, which is nothing to a multi-billion-dollar company, the $3 million in consumer relief, which is nothing to the company and almost nothing to the consumers. I took my family out to dinner the other day. It cost us $100. Nonsense. In addition to that, homeowners SPS must implement changes to ensure, among other things, that homeowners receive adequate support and accurate information when seeking loan modification and other foreclosure prevention alternatives. I'm telling you right now, nothing is going to change inside SPS from when this happened till the end of the year or next year or the year after that. Nothing's going to change. Their servicing is not going to get better. There's no one who's going to have their house protected. There are no foreclosures that are going to be prevented because of this nonsense. This belongs in trial. The Attorney General of the state of California, forgive me for saying so, needs to grow a pair and take the bank to trial. This belongs in a trial in front of a jury of citizens in California. I would say they're peers, but unless you work at SPS, you don't really have a peer unless you work in another company. This should have been a jury trial. It should have been a jury trial. Every network in the country should be paying attention to it. You want to make some real difference. You want to get the mortgage companies to behave. Then make it cost them something. $4.6 million is nothing to a company that has over $200 billion in mortgages and services almost $1 million in almost a million mortgage loans. This is nothing. This is a joke. And for them to put this on their website as if something they're proud of, and if Rob Bonta runs for governor or any other future higher office, which I'm sure he's going to do, and I hope he does. Like I said, I think he's a pretty good public servant, but come on, man, smarten up. $4.6 million is a joke. And this is what they were caught doing, just to let you know what they're settling for. They failed to give homeowners adequate information. And again, directly from the Attorney General's website. This is no research. This is directly from their website. This is their press release. SPS failed to give homeowners adequate information about COVID-19 forbearance plans, including related to their forbearance exit options and their ability to apply for other loss mitigation options while in a forbearance. SPS was telling people you're in a forbearance, so you can't get any other relief, which was a lie. That's incorrect. They were also telling people that at the end of your forbearance, by the way, forbearance just means, for those of you who don't know, you don't have to make your mortgage payment. They can't charge additional late fees or back fees. You still pay interest, and you still have to make good on the payments. But the idea is it doesn't damage your credit, gives you a break to catch up. The problem is, at the end of most of these forbearance periods, what SPS was doing is saying, well, you owe us $30,000 in back mortgage over the last 2 years, or last year, and we'd like you to write us a check. Well, if I couldn't pay you over the last year, a month at a time, how do you expect me to just write you a check now? And a lot of what SPS did was put their hands in their pocket and say, gee, that's too bad. I guess you'll need to go to a refi or something else or give us your house. They were not handling it properly. People lost their houses in foreclosure as a result. And I was in this fight directly. And I was very lucky. My clients were very lucky. Most of the people, I think all of the people that we represented with SPS, where they tried to pull this kind of nonsense, we were able to force SPS to follow the law, and we were able to force them into doing what's right. We were able to save those houses. But there are a lot of people who weren't lucky enough to have me or somebody like me helping them. And so they lost their homes because SPS didn't do what they were supposed to do under the COVID-19 requirements. They lied. They cost people their homes. Number two, they sent mortgage statements to borrowers on COVID-19 forbearance plans, wrongly stating that the fees would be charged for missed payments. In other words, we realize we put you into a forbearance, you're not supposed to be paying us, but we're still going to charge late fees, so you better pay us those. That's 100% illegal. That is a violation of the law. Black letters, you can't miss this. You're 100% not allowed to charge late fees on people in forbearance. But they did, and I'm sure people paid them, but it's okay, because if you're one of those people who's affected, you might get $100. Maybe if there are less people than I think, maybe it's 200. That's great. They paid more than that in fees in the first time they got nailed. Another thing, failure to have tailored loss mitigation discussions with homeowners nearing the end of their COVID-19 forbearance plans. There were no conversations at all. You owe us money. It was like dealing with the mob. Pay us or lose your home. Pay us or else. That was the conversation. Failure to have tailored loss mitigation discussions. Who are you kidding? Failed to ensure, there's another one, failure to ensure homeowners seeking foreclosure prevention alternatives receive adequate support from their single point of contact. Now, I don't know which one of these words baffles SPS and a lot of the other banks out there. I don't know if it's single point or contact. It's only 3 words. Single point of contact. That means there should be a man or woman assigned to your file who, when you call, when you need help, when you're going through this process, is handling your file. So you don't have to get lost in the phone tree. You don't have to get lost in we'll just call loss mitigation and someone will call you back at some future date. What SPS would do is they'd schedule times to call you and then not call. And they're supposed to have a single point of contact, yet that person never seems to be available. So I'll say it again. I don't know which part of this baffled SPS and the other companies. Single point of contact. I'm sure everyone listening knows what that means. One person who is your point of contact. That's it. Not tough conceptually, yet they never could seem to do that. But it's okay because you're being fined $4.6 million. And the last but not least, and by the way, this list is a lot longer than this. This is just the one the AG is talking about. Failure to ensure that homeowners could submit loan modification applications according to the timelines and under the circumstances that HBOR allows. In other words, SPS was telling people, I'm sorry, it's too late. You can't do anything about saving your home. I had cases, at least 2 or 3 of these cases, in my office directly where SPS told us, you are outside the parameters for SPS, we cannot help you. No, I'm sorry. That's not the way it works. Under HBOR, under the Homeowner Bill of Rights, there are very specific guidelines, and you are not following them. So your choices are here, SPS, and we'll be happy to have this conversation with the legal department, which you've done on at least 2 occasions. You can either honor the law and take a look at this application, or we will sue. Your choice. My client and I would much rather you guys follow the law, because that's better for all concerned. But if you want, I happen to be married to a very gifted real estate attorney, and she'll be more than happy to take this case. She might even take it pro bono, SPS, because you're not going to outspend my clients either. So, yeah, they are guilty up to their necks. They did this completely wrong. The Attorney General caught them with their hand in the proverbial till. I mean, this is the equivalent. If you could steal $200 million, for example, but only have to give up $1 million in penalties, well, that sounds like a deal and a half. Let's go. I'll drive. Sounds good. That is essentially what's happening here. And to act as if a $4.6 million settlement means something is going to change anything at all is insulting. It's insulting to the homeowners who got screwed, and it's insulting to those of us who work in this part of the industry. Because this, I'm afraid to say, is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense, and I know the Attorney General knows that. I mean, my God, $100 per person, $200 per person, that's your big settlement? That's going to help the homeowners who lost their homes, who got screwed by SPS? But it's okay, because they're going to be better now. Because after all, they had to empty out their swear jar and pay out their pocket change to the consumer and to the government. So they ought to be fine now. Ridiculous. Now, before we go to break, I want to touch briefly on what is the Homeowner Bill of Rights. I'm just going to give you the highlights. And again, this is directly from the Attorney General's website. It's a little more complicated than this, but this is what they're giving you. California's HBOR, Homeowner Bill of Rights, HBOR, provides protections to homeowners facing foreclosures and tenants in foreclosed homes and puts certain responsibilities on mortgage servicers. Key provisions include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I have 5 of them. There are a lot more than this, as I said. These are the high points. Notification of foreclosure prevention options. The bank has to tell you, if you're in foreclosure, what your options are. SPS failed to do that. And I guarantee you SPS is still failing to do that today. Because again, the settlement they just entered into was a joke. It was pocket change. It was couch money. So of course they're not giving people the adequate information. Most of the people who work at SPS don't even know what a lot of the adequate information is. I should not know more about SPS's program than the person that a client talks to at SPS. There's so much turnover in that department. A lot of people. I had somebody the other day who's been in the department's 10 days. But it's okay because you got 2 days worth of training. Well, I'm comfortable now. Acknowledgement of application. When you send in an application, they have to notify you within 5 business days if they need anything else. And I'm here to tell you, and this is not just SPS, it's never that fast. If you're lucky, it's 2 weeks. You send in an application, they come back and say, oh, you're missing X, Y, and Z, or we didn't tell you that we needed A, B, and C, but we need this. They're supposed to do that within 5 days. It's never 5 days. And nobody's ever held to account. They're certainly not being held to account now. Why should they? Next one, guaranteed single point of contact, which we just talked about. I don't know what's so hard about this. You assign one person to the file. That's the man or woman who handles the file. That's it. It's not hard conceptually to figure this out, but they're not doing it. Restriction on dual tracking. Here's one of the few things they do actually acknowledge, because there have been so many decent lawsuits, 15, 20 years ago that actually cost banks some money. They are not allowed to pursue foreclosure and a loss mitigation remedy at the same time. So if they're pursuing any sort of loss mitigation, whether that's a loan modification, whether it's even a deed in lieu, you're giving them the house back, whether it's any loss mitigation efforts, they are prohibited from pursuing foreclosure at the same time. That's what it used to be. It used to be foreclosure and loss mitigation at the same time, and it was both trains would leave the station at the same time, and it was whichever one got to the end first as to what happened with you. Lots of people lost their houses because of dual tracking. So at least they are, I will say that's something they haven't been busted for in a while, so that's a good thing. And the last is tenant rights. You're supposed to give a tenant, if a house goes into foreclosure, the foreclosing party is supposed to give the tenant at least 90 days before they start the eviction processes. They've been a little bit pretty good about that. I don't see a lot of that, but they certainly haven't been as good as they need to be. So I find this, I read this and I almost came out of my chair, because I cannot believe that the Attorney General of the state of California, who is a very intelligent man, by all accounts, and I think a good public servant in most cases, is crowing about a $4.6 million settlement with a $200 billion company. That's nothing to be proud of. And if you are proud of it, there's something wrong with you. Because I'm very sorry, Attorney General Bonta, you lost this round. You blew this. This is a mistake. Now, I didn't have access to all your records, of course, and I don't know what the rest of the case might have looked like. You might have thought if you went to trial, you're going to lose. But damn it, I want to see somebody, preferably the Attorney General of the state of California, take one of these banks to trial. Take them to trial, put them in front of a jury. They're going to lose, and then they might actually lose substantial money. You hit them with a $200 or $300 million penalty, and that might actually do something. Still won't affect their bottom line a whole hell of a lot, but at least it might be enough that it'll curb their behavior in the future. Because I got to tell you, $4.6 million is a joke. It's a joke that's not funny. It's a joke that's insulting. And to have the Attorney General put this out as a header on their website, man, this isn't something I'd be proud of. And if the Attorney General is proud of it, it's because he thinks the rest of you are stupid. He thinks the rest of us out there don't understand that $4.6 million means nothing. So that was fun to talk about. SPS, and they're not alone. SPS isn't even the worst offender. We used to, when I first started the show years ago, I used to have a bit we do called Bad Bank of the Week. And SPS was on that list so often we just stopped doing it. So it just wasn't funny anymore. So is Carrington and PHH and all these other companies. You see the same offenders over and over again because the largest servicers out there are the worst offenders because they do it by volume. And when the Attorney General doesn't really do anything serious to curb their behavior, they're going to keep stealing. They're going to keep behaving badly. They're not going to see the light and find the Lord and start doing it properly. That's never going to happen. It's not the way money works, at least not in this economy, not in this country. So yeah, I think that's completely ridiculous. And if you agree with me, go to the Attorney General's office. Email the Attorney General and tell him you think this is nonsense. You think that this $4.6 million settlement is nonsense. SPS is a much larger company than that. This is nothing. My goodness. So anyway, do me a favor, listen to the break. When we come back, we're going to have Marcela Slavik, a friend of mine, is going to join us. We're going to talk about a little bit more surface level real estate schemes and con jobs and things like that we see on a regular basis, because every day of the week, there's at least 5 other scams that we see. And we're pretty good at finding these things and warning our clients about it. The DRE does a pretty good job. So does the state of California in a lot of ways do a pretty good job kind of at least letting people know about this information, that some of these things are scams, but they're usually late to the party to catch up, and it's usually a lot of people have been hit. So we're going to talk about some of the scams that we've seen in the mail, some of the scams we've seen they're online, and other things that are basically designed to remove, to part homeowners from their hard-earned money, and in some cases try to take the whole house. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. So please listen to the break. And if you've never heard this stuff before, give me a call if you got any questions. If you think you've been scammed, give me a call. I can be reached at 661-714-1400. You're listening to The Real Estate Fix with your host, Rich Sherman, on KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220. Hey everybody, thank you for listening to the break. You're listening to The Real Estate Fix. I'm your host, Rich Sherman, on KHTS AM 1220, FM 98.1, your hometown station. And thank you guys for tuning in this morning. I a little animated in our last segment, our first segment, because I'm really angry at the Attorney General for making the big deal out of this nonsense settlement with SPS. We've had enough of that. So we're moving on. We have in studio a special guest, Marcela Slavik. She is a very good friend of mine, and we've been working together for, over a decade now, I think. She works with me at Radius Agent. She offers expert real estate, read her bio, Offers expert real estate services in Valencia, California, with nearly 30 years of experience. She specializes in helping clients navigate the complexities of the housing market. Her dedication to client satisfaction and her extensive knowledge of the local area make her a trusted choice for home buyers and sellers alike. She has over 400,000 followers on Facebook. I didn't even know that. That's a lot. And I want to read you just a couple of the reviews. I briefly grabbed a couple of reviews. I'm not to embarrass you, but I want to read you a couple of these reviews. And I didn't make these up. You might think I did, but these are all ones I pulled offline. Marcela is a fantastic person. She was with us every step of the way and made sure we were satisfied and got the home we were looking for. I highly recommend her services if you're looking to buy or sell a home. That's a pretty good one. These are all 5-star. Marcela helped me and my family buy a home all the way out in Bakersfield. We were very happy with her service. She is the perfect combination of personable and professional. I can't wait to use her services again or refer any of my friends and coworkers or family to her. You should too. Here's another one. Marcela is the hardest working realtor out there. When she said she'll close the deal, she closes the deal. You can trust every word she says. She's a wonderful woman of integrity and character. I'll leave one more. Marcela Kosin is the best in the biz. She's personable, knowledgeable, and accessible. She works tirelessly to make sure you're taken care of in every way throughout your journey in finding or selling a home. That one goes on for a little longer, but I think you get look at the gist of it. So she's been doing this for almost as long as I have. A very good friend and a tremendously talented realtor. So I was prepping the show for cons and scams and all sorts of malfeasance. We like to do these every so often, try to bring a light to some of the stuff we see. And as I was in the middle of prepping that show, I got a call from Marcela saying, "Hey, have you seen this?" So you want to tell the people kind of what you got in the mail here? It's the latest sort of scam du jour that's going around. So hello, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Tell people what you got. Tell people what you got in the mail.
Well, I did. The way this thing came to me is the fact I did a family trust. And only because I have a home that I don't want to go to foreclosure or anything happens to me done, which everybody should take care of that. And then basically when it was all said and done, I get this letter said that I owe
$132.50.
Yeah. And then basically I called my attorney and I go, am I supposed to pay for this? I already paid you X amount of money to do this family trust. Mm-hmm. So he goes, no, it's a scam. Mm-hmm. And if I look at what it wants me to send the check, it says property records, 110 West Virgil Avenue, 623 Los Angeles.
Yeah, we need to advertise these people. Let me just interject here for a minute. What this is it's a property record scam. We've seen this before. This is just the latest version of it. And what happens is you get this letter in the mail that looks very official. And you guys I'll post it online. You guys can look at it. And what it says is, I'll just read you the top line here. Property records indicate that Marcela Marie Slavik, Trust and Marcela Slavik, as the property owner, I'm not going to give you guys the address, by recently recorded transfer of the title of property. In other words, because you put it in a trust, there was a recent transfer. So what they do is they seek out recent transfers, which isn't hard. There are many different services that'll give you the various transfers and things. They watch title records. And what these guys are doing is they're essentially charging you for something that you can get for free. They make it look official, and they please respond by, and it has a very official date on there. All little bold products, things on there. And what they're trying to do is get the consumer to send in $132.50 for something you can absolutely get for free. It's just a copy of your title record. That's all it is. All they're going to do is send you a copy of the title record. I sent out 3 of them this morning right after I got up because I had clients who were asking. It's just the records, and they're public records. It says they're public. It says county public information on the thing. So it's basically getting you to pay money for something that is free that you shouldn't have to pay for.
Right. I totally understand that. The only thing is that a lot of people, they're not in the same business that me and you are.
Of course.
They get this in the mail, and they go, rather they send this money to whoever this person is, and it has nothing to really do with any of the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah, it does nothing for anybody. You just get a copy of a record that you can get for free.
Yeah.
So you can go on the assessor's office, you go to the assessor's website, you can get it for free. You can ask a realtor to pull it for you. Any title company, any escrow company can pull this for you. And it's free. It takes about 10 seconds.
Yeah. But like I said, I just wanted to warn people out there when they're doing the living trust, family trust, or selling homes, when they get a letter like that, definitely go back to your real estate agent, go back to your lawyers, and question anything you don't understand that you're paying for.
Yeah, it's always a good policy. You should always question. Anything somebody asks you to pay for, you should question what is it and why do I need it. Absolutely, without question. But this is just sort of the latest scam, and this one's I'm sure they've sucked in a lot of people, because at $132 a pop, all you need is 10 people who aren't paying attention. And suddenly you got $1,000. You got 100 people who aren't paying attention. You got $13,000. So I get where this comes from, and I'm not even sure this is illegal. It's immoral and it's unethical. But near as I can tell, it's not illegal to charge people a fee to pull their property record. So it's a scam, but it's not something that's illegal as far as I can tell. It is, as I said, unethical, and it is, getting people to, it's like getting people to pay for air. It's, last time I checked, it's still free. And it's absolutely free to get your title records. And if you want your title records, you can call me anytime. You can call Marcela anytime. You want to give out your phone number so they can call you?
Yeah, my number is 661-877-1017. Thank you.
You can call Marcela anytime, and she'll be happy to get your property records pulled for you. And as I said, any title company can do this. Any escrow company can do this. Any realtor can do this. You got myriad of ways to get the title record. The question rather is, do you have issues with the title record? That's where the rubber meets the road. So let's go over some other scams and things that we're talking. And this is directly from the California Department of Real Estate. This is their consumer alert, which is an email I like to pay attention to. We were talking about this a little before the break. One of the biggest problems in real estate right now is, aside from something like this that isn't necessarily illegal, it's just unethical, and you shouldn't have to spend the money, $132 a throw. There are a lot of title schemes out there and title fraud schemes out there, and that's probably the biggest single problem we're having in California. That and wire fraud, sort of the two biggies. So let's talk about both of those. So number one on the DRA's list at the moment, they call it business email compromise, BEC. A strange way to put it. What they're saying is it's really wire fraud is what they're looking for there. So let me just read you this. This type of fraud is becoming increasingly sophisticated. Criminals hack into an email accounts of real estate professionals or escrow officers and impersonate them to trick the home buyers into transferring large sums of money to fraudulent accounts. California's tech-savvy real estate market is particularly susceptible, with high-value transactions at risk. It works like this, and this is a true story. My clients had this happen about 5 years ago. They got an email that said it was from me, which it was not, and it said they needed to wire $50,000, which was their deposit on a house they were buying, to this bank account number. And what the client should have done was called me, which they didn't, or called the escrow company, which they didn't, or gone to their own bank and say, where is this wire going? Other than the number, where is this wire going? They didn't do that either. So what wound up happening is the client sent $50,000 to a scam address, a scam wire. And once the money goes out, it takes about 30 seconds for it to get to the next person. And then about a minute after that, it's out of the country. I guess a lot of this, in talking to some people who know a lot more about this than I do, I guess a lot of this winds up in Azerbaijan and places like that, who you can't get the money back from and don't have extradition treaties, really. So that's wire fraud. And it's a big, 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 big problem. So I have some tips for you. So what do you tell people where they're getting this kind of stuff?
If you get an email like that, you definitely, absolutely get hold of me, get hold of you escrow officer, and definitely make sure that your wire and everything is correctly, because like I said, those kind of things are gone fast and you can't do nothing about it once you miss.
Once the wire goes, it doesn't come back. It's not like a cashier's check where you can cancel it. That's why it's a wire fraud, not check fraud. Check fraud's also different things. But if anybody asks you to wire a large sum of money, there are very common sense steps you just need to go through. First thing is with your bank, verify your payment instructions. Call the bank that's supposed to be receiving it. Make sure your bank calls the bank that's supposed to be receiving it. Talk to escrow, talk to your real estate provider, talk to everybody, and make sure that if you're sending $50,000 to ABC Financial, that you're supposed to be sending $50,000 to ABC Financial. Or XYZ escrow company, or wherever it's supposed to be going. Verify, and do it all before you send the wire. Because once the wire goes out, it doesn't come back. Yeah, that's just gone. And most of the time it's in a foreign country very, very quickly. Be cautious if you receive unsolicited emails asking for changes to payment instructions. If you receive an email that's from anybody other than escrow asking you to change your payment instructions or wiring instructions and everything else, beware. And the first thing you should do is call your escrow officer and say, hey, I just got this. Is this supposed to be this way? Escrow sees more of this than we do. You should also look for unusual email addresses or slight changes. In this particular case, what they did is they changed what they said was my email address from SZ to SH, which is not my email. So what they did is they hacked into my computer or somebody's. They managed to see that these people were in escrow and were about to send off a deposit, because we talked about that. And then they sent them a fake email with a fake wire address, and that's where the wire went. And last but not least, and probably most important, use multi-factor authentication for email accounts linked to real estate transactions. Now, multi-factor can be calling the person as well, but you can also use security on it. Escrow can do that for you, so can title if you need those things. So you got to be incredibly careful with this, because once it goes out, it does not come back. And honestly, just be curious. Just be curious. Ask questions. That's your best defense to any of these things. Next one up, deed and title fraud. We were talking about that a little with this little thing that came out. This is a biggie. This is the one that we see that causes people, honestly, the most trouble. What happens is, I'll just read you the thing from the DRE. Deed and title fraud are a growing concern, particularly in California's more populated areas. Scammers forge deeds and use fake identities to transfer ownership of properties. Once the property is transferred in the fraudster's name, they may sell it or take out a loan against the property, leaving the original owner unaware until it's too late. One of the things that we've seen in the office a couple of times, I know you've seen this as well, Marcel, where we'll pull up properties, whether somebody's going to sell a property or maybe they're in foreclosure or whatever, refinance, we'll pull the property title, and we'll see that there's the second that they knew nothing about. I'll ask the client, "You didn't borrow $100,000 from XYZ person or XYZ company 2 years ago?" And they're always befuddled, and they always say no. And we look at the title, and usually these guys aren't that slick. With a little bit of investigation, you can usually figure it out. But what they'll do is, there are several versions of this. But the one we've seen the most often is not where they're trying to steal the whole house. What they'll do is they'll create a fake second or a fake third. And the homeowner won't know about it because people don't check their title. They really should. You should check your title at least once a year. And if anybody out there can hear me and wants to do that, you can give me a call. You give Marcela a call. I'll be happy to pull your title for you. Happy to get it sorted out. Again, you can reach me at 661-714-1400. That's my cell. You can reach me at 24 hours a day. Marcela, you want to give out your phone number again?
Yeah, my name is Marcela Slavik, 661-877-1017.
I forget my name sometimes as well.
Sorry.
Anyway, I also just change it sometimes just to be different, especially with telemarketers, but that's just my thing. If you've called my house and it's before 9 o'clock in the morning, you are now here for my entertainment. So sorry if I took advantage of any of these telemarketers, but that's just the way it is. Call me at a reasonable hour, you'll get a reasonable response. Anyway, so what happens with title fraud, we see a lot is we'll pull a title, and we'll see a second or a third loan that the client knows nothing about. And what you have to do in that case is you have to do a little research. They don't know anything about it. Well, how does this loan look? Let's get a copy of the note. Let's get a copy, with the note is the loan. Let's get a copy of it. Let's get a copy of the deed. Let's see what they say. We had one recently where they use Westcom, among other things, which is a company that provides legal access for attorneys and things to research cases. They certainly don't invest in mortgages. We had one that was General Dynamics, which they build fighter jets. They don't invest in people's mortgages. So that's one quick tip. We had one where it was these three guys. It was in their name, and the three guys two of them were in jail. Two of the three were already in prison for mortgage fraud. And the biggest problem with this is even when somebody gets caught doing it, and in this case it was criminal, and the case had made its way through the criminal courts, and two of the three partners, called the Parcel Law Group, two of the three partners were already in jail for among other things, wire fraud and title fraud. However, judges, God bless them, in the criminal courts don't understand how real estate works. So it's all well and good that these guys went to prison, but they didn't do anything to deal with the fraud that these guys had created. So in other words, there was nothing to automatically reverse what they did. And the guys who are in prison certainly are going to sign off to reverse it. So basically, to make a long story short, it goes like this. If you stole my bicycle and the sheriff's department tracked you down and caught you, and you had my bike, I'd get my bike back. However, that does not work with title. If somebody steals your title or puts a fraudulent lien on your title, steals part of your title, and even if the courts catch them, and even if it's criminal, and even if they go all the way through a criminal trial and they get found guilty and they go to jail, still does not give you back your title. You, as the consumer, despite the fact you did nothing but get up in the morning, you had nothing to do with anything, you just got caught in a fraud that you didn't even know anything about, you as the consumer now have to get that lien off your title. And that is a whole other problem. Now, most realtors don't know how to do this. A lot of people in real estate know how to do this. What most people are going to tell you is you have to go through what's called a quiet title action. What that means is you have to hire an attorney. That attorney has to file a case with the court because the only way that's coming off title is if a judge signs off on it. So you have to hire an attorney. That's $5,000 to $10,000 up front in retainer. Then that attorney's going to have to file a lawsuit calling this lien fraudulent, which it is. They're going to have to go to court, and you're going to have to sit in front of a judge. You're going to have to make your case. Now, usually if the guys are in prison, they're not going to contest it. Or if it's fraud, nobody's going to show up to contest it. Even uncontested, I'm told, that kind of case is going to cost you somewhere between $10,000 to $30,000, and it's going to cost you somewhere around 3 to 4 years. Sometimes it happens quicker, but California's pretty busy, and they're not in a hurry to fix title problems. So let's say you're going to go sell your house this year, and you're intrepid realtor. Marcela's your realtor, and Marcela pulled the title. And it turns out you have a second with somebody named Bob Smith, who you've never heard of in your entire life. You don't know anybody of that name. There's a $100,000 second. Well, now what do you do? Well, most people will tell you have no choice. You can't sell your house because you cannot deliver what's called clear marketable title. So you can't sell the house. So you got to fix the problem. So you have to hire an attorney. You got to spend all kinds of money, all kinds of time. And in a couple of years, it'll come off your title. Now you'll be able to sell your house. Well, I don't know about you, but that doesn't work for me. So years ago, I was determined to find a better way to do this, and I'm very lucky in that people who are smarter about this than I am take my phone calls. I don't know why they do, but they do, and I appreciate that. So I was able to get a couple of title officers from different companies, which this is a rare thing, on a conference call together. And I said, find me, how do we do this? Find me a solution. I got a client who needs to sell a house, needs to refi a house, whatever it was, and they've got this nonsense on title, and the consumer did nothing. They didn't even get scammed. They got scammed because they just had a house. They literally did nothing. So what do we do? There's got to be a better way to fix this than a quiet title action. And what I learned was, and this is your tip of the week, what I learned was you can do something called bonding around it. And what that means is you can go to a bond company. People think of bond companies like bail bonds or somebody's in jail. Bond companies do all sorts of other things too. You can bond around a fraudulent second. And there are really a couple of steps to this. First, you have to demonstrate to the title company you're working with that this is a fraudulent second. My example where the guys were already in jail and there were front page articles in the LA Times was pretty easy to demonstrate that this was fraud. Wasn't terribly hard. But then you have to get permission from the title company to raise a bond to bond around it. Title companies are insurance companies. They're worried about liability. That's their job. They're ensuring that the transfer of title and the chain of title. So what you want to do is you raise a bond for a $100,000 lien. They're going to want a bond for 2 to 3 times that, and you have to pay for it. It's going to be several $1,000s, but it's still better than $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 and 3 to 4 years of your life, if not longer, with quiet title. So it's not a great solution. It's just the best one we have, and it's certainly better than a quiet title action. So you can bond around a fake second or a fake lien. So that's today's lesson. So I tell you what, let's go to break. Where if you guys would be so kind as to listen to the break, we got one more segment of the show, and I think you guys are going to like this a lot. We're going to go through some more of these scams and other things that we see. And so you'll hopefully be forewarned is forearmed, as they say. So hopefully this doesn't happen to any of you. But if it does, you can give me a call. You can give Marcela a call anytime. I can be reached at 661-714-1400. Marcela, your number one more time?
661-877-1017.
There you go, 1017, 877-1017. All right, listen to the break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, thank you for listening to the break. You're listening to The Real Estate Fix. I'm your host, Rich Sherman, on KHTS, AM 1220, FM 98.1, your hometown station, my favorite station. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening. We've been going over real estate scams and bad behavior and other sorts of things that we see. And I have in studio today my special guest, Marcela Kosa. No, sorry, it's Marcela Slavik now. I'm sorry, my apologies. Marcela Slavik, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. You think I should know better. But we were talking about some of the rescue scams we've seen. Marcela got one in the mail. It was not so much as, well, I'm going to call it a scam. There are certainly worse things in the scam that you got hit with. And you knew enough to know different that it was basically they wanted $132 to get a copy of for them to give you a copy of their title report, which you can get for free from multiple sources. And if you want a copy of your title report, your title prelim, or your profile, give me a call, give Marcela a call, give any realtor a call, give any title company a call, any escrow company a call. You can go online with the assessor's office. They'll give you the information. So let's talk about how to prevent some of this stuff. One of the first things you should do, and in LA County we do this for free, you can go to the assessor's website, lacounty.assessor.org, and you can flag your account. So that way, anytime there's a change in the title and your property's title, you will automatically get an email. Now, the assessor's office, if there's any change, will automatically send you it in the mail anyway. But having the email is quicker, obviously. We don't always check our mail as quickly as we should. So you can do that, and that'll protect you. There are a number of things you can do. But let's talk about foreclosure rescue scams. That's something near and dear to my heart since I do foreclosure prevention. This is directly again from DRE. Many homeowners facing financial difficulties may fall victim to foreclosure rescue scams. Fraudsters pretend to be experts who can help prevent foreclosures, but their real goal is to steal fees upfront without providing any real assistance. So there are rules that govern foreclosure defense. I have to follow them. Everyone should. These are rules, and they're good rules. One of the number one things is never pay upfront fees for foreclosure help. Legitimate programs will never ask for money upfront. They don't do that. If your house is in foreclosure, if you're worried about going into foreclosure and you have somebody helping you sort that out, whether it's me or some other company or somebody else, they are not allowed to charge you upfront. They're only allowed to charge you if they get you some sort of positive result. They are not allowed to charge you upfront. It is just that simple. And a positive result could be anything. I mean, loan modification is a good one, or forbearance, or just sometimes it's time. Depends on what the client is, but don't pay up front. Also, avoid anyone who promises to immediately stop the foreclosure and wipe out your debt. Anyone who makes you a promise like that, anyone who makes you a guarantee that they can stop the foreclosure is lying to you. You cannot. I've been doing this for 36 years, and I'm telling you, you cannot promise a client you're going to stop the foreclosure. I can promise you we'll work really hard at it. I can tell you all the various things we're going to do, and I'll do it in detail as to how to stop them. But no one can make you that promise. They simply can't do that. So things to avoid with foreclosure rescue scams. The other big one we see a lot of, and I know, Marcela, you've seen this as well, mortgage elimination scam, where a fraudster offers a mortgage, offers you pay me, and I will eliminate your mortgage because of the latest one I heard had to do with some Indian tribal law thing, where you joined the tribe and now you're subject to Indian law, and the Indian law says they can't ever foreclose because now you're an Indian. Totally untrue, complete scam. We got a company charging $15,000 a throw to do this, and they're doing it all over the country. Complete and utter nonsense. Most of the time, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Just because it sounds good doesn't mean it's not. And it's something like, you can investigate these things. That's just what it is. So, yeah, anyone who says they can eliminate the mortgage is, even the DRE's advice is be highly suspicious of anyone claiming they can conceal or eliminate your mortgage for a fee. Always seek advice from trusted financial advisors or attorneys. Report suspicious mortgages to the DRE, please. It's just complete and utter nonsense. No one out there can just void your mortgage. You void your mortgage by paying it off. That's how you get rid of your mortgage. Anything short of that, or anything short of a court order from a judge, you're not getting rid of that mortgage. You're just not. That's just the way it works. So yeah, foreclosure scams and that. Any scams you want to talk about? And you had a couple of. We were talking insurance before the break. You want to go over that?
I was just going to say there's insurance is hard to get, and you pay monthly a lot for it, and then
especially now,
and there's a lot of people there aren't getting taken care of, and the housing is getting difficult to be purchased because of the fire insurances and everything else.
Well, it's extremely hard to get insurance in California at the moment. The insurance companies will tell you it's because it's too expensive to do business in California. And I understand that. There are remedies that have to come from the state to help offset that. But I'll give you one example we were just talking about before the break. I've got a client who lost his house in the Malibu fires a decade ago. At the time, his house was worth about $3.5 million. Now it's worth about $6.5, $7 million, maybe as much as $8. The problem is he couldn't get insurance any other way, so he had to go through California Fair Plan. As happens to all of us, as realtors, we see this all the time. California Fair Plan is the insurance of last resort. You pay more and you get less. But it's real estate, but at least you can get insurance, otherwise you can't. Because you can get a mortgage without insurance, or a lot of things you need. It's not just protecting the consumer, it's protecting everyone else who's invested in the property as well. And the problem with Fair Plan then as now is they're extremely limited. Fair Plan at the time capped out at $1 million. Now I think it's $1.2 million or something like that. It's not much higher now. And sometimes it's going to cost more to rebuild that house. The house I'm talking to you about, it's a $3.5 million house at the time, and about $6 or $7 million now, if not more. He had $1 million insurance to rebuild a $3 million house. He was looking at a $3 million bill to rebuild his house. He didn't have $2 million, and he still has a mortgage he has to pay. So he's in litigation. He's suing Fair Plan now. But for the last 10 years, he's managed to rebuild a garage and an apartment over the garage, and that's where he and his family live. And he walks across the foundation of his once gorgeous Malibu house every day for the last 10 years. He just walks across it to get to that place they live. He calls it the chicken coop, because there used to be chickens back there. Now it's a garage with an apartment above. So yeah, he's got an apartment with a very nice view, because there's a view until the house gets built. But he needs a house. And the mortgage lender never should have lent under these circumstances. The insurance never should have gone out under these circumstances. He's just yet another victim of scams in California having to do with insurance. So whatever it is, whether it's insurance, whether it's mortgage, whether it's title, whatever it is, trust your gut. If you think you're being scammed, if you think it sounds funny, if you think it sounds too good to be true, check. Call a realtor. We can check this out for you. I can do it. Marcela can do it. Call a title company. Call a trusted friend, a financial advisor. Talk to an attorney, a real estate attorney. Any of these people can help you out. It's easy enough to do the research on this stuff before you cut a check or before you get yourself in trouble. So you should do so. You do yourself a disservice by not checking these things out.
Absolutely, definitely.
So if you'd like, we'll do this one more time. If you'd like, give Marcela a call at
661-877-1017.
Or you can give me a call. I can be reached anytime, 24 hours a day, unless I'm on the air here, at 661-714-1400. You can text me at that number as well. If you feel the need to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's totally fine. Just keep in mind the value of the consistency of my advice is in direct proportion to the amount of sleep I'm losing. So bear that in mind. You've been listening to The Real Estate Fix with your host, Rich Sherman, on KHTS AM 1220, FM 98.1. You guys have a good week. Be good humans.